Hi, good morning, everyone. My name's Graham Baker. I'm Senior Lecturer in Physical Activity for Health. I am currently the Deputy Director of our Physical Activity for Health Research Centre, and up until August, I will be the Programme Director for this MSc, and I have been this for the last 5 years. I'm very excited to announce that we will have a new Programme Director as of September, Chloe Williamson. And so should you be accepted onto the programme and choose to take up the offer, then we both look forward to meeting with you and welcoming you to Edinburgh in September, and we'd be delighted to have you on the programme, of course. So my role today is to provide you with a bit of an overview about all aspects of the programme. So the main aims and objectives and what we're trying to do, what we're trying to train you for in terms of going on to have a future career, and also to give you a bit more detail about some of the courses and classes that you will engage with during your time on the programme. Some of this can be found on the website. Some of you may have attended a previous online session with ourselves. So perhaps the most important thing for today is the opportunity for you to ask any questions. So as I go through my slides for the next 15 minutes or so, any questions that you have, please put them into the chat and we'll address all of those at the end. But I'd also be really happy for you to just have your questions ready at the end of the session when I'm finished. Okay, so I'll move on, and what I'd like to start with is just a little bit of a kind of overview about the background about why you might be wanting to study postgraduate physical activity for health degree program. Well, you'll have your own reasons, of course, but here's why I think you should study this with ourselves. So physical activity is one of the 4 key behavioural risk factors, along with tobacco, diet and alcohol, which is included in the current WHO action plan. Now, we know that regular physical activity is a very well-established protective factor for the prevention and the treatment of leading non-communicable diseases. So we think of things such as cardiovascular disease, cancers, chronic respiratory diseases and diabetes. And it also contributes heavily to the prevention of other risk factors such as hypertension, overweight and obesity, and is strongly associated with emerging evidence every day with improved mental health, delay in the onset of dementia and improved quality of life and well-being. And as such, in 2018, the WHO released a global action plan dedicated for physical activity. And this is to help countries scale up policy actions to promote physical activity. So the levels of physical activity globally, unfortunately, are still quite high in terms of people being inactive. And in actual fact, the levels of inactivity make this a pandemic and a serious global public health issue. Now, whilst that is, of course, terrible news in terms of yourself, your education and a future career, there is now a growing workforce accordingly dedicated to improving those global levels of physical activity. And finally, one thing that we're all concerned with in our society are obviously the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and the promotion of physical activity aligns with several of these, including good health and well-being, quality education, equality, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities, communities, and very importantly, climate action. So this is something that we and hopefully you are really passionate about in terms of promoting physical activity, helping to prevent disease and treat and manage different chronic conditions in our society. So studying this is a really great thing to do at the current time. And in the MSc Physical Activity for Health at the University of Edinburgh, we are the only dedicated MSc in this topic in Scotland and one of only very few in the UK. Some of those are combined with other aspects such as nutrition and fitness, but ours is the only dedicated one around this. Now, our MSc is actually embedded within our internationally recognised Physical Activity for Health Research Centre, which we call PARC, and that's led by world-leading Professor of Physical Activity, Marie Murphy. So I'm delighted to be the Deputy Director of the Centre and Learning under Professor Murphy. Now, the teaching that you receive on our MSc is obviously directly informed and integrated into all of the research activities of our centre. So you'll be directed by Chloe and myself, members. You'll be taught by members of the centre who are all active researchers, world-leading researchers in the area. And whilst we are obviously very heavily research focused, we're all dedicated to providing excellent teaching. And the research that we do informs current policy practice and our teaching activities. So by joining us with the MSc, you actually become automatically a member of PARC, and your learning helps to contribute to our research centre, which is dedicated to excellent research, teaching and training, and an environment around promoting this behaviour. What we hope, of course, is that after you graduate, you go on either to further study or into practice, whether that be in medicine, in rehabilitation, or other forms of health promotion and exercise science, and become part of this growing workforce that I mentioned, which is dedicated to improving global levels of physical activity. So just a final point there is that we have a fairly small but very vibrant and international community of students. So we have approximately 30 students in our master's programme each year, which we think is a really great advantage. So you get to know all of your classmates, you get to develop good working relationships with the teachers, which is not always the case with some of the other master programmes, which are much larger in numbers, exceeding 100, for example. So the University of Edinburgh and our Moray House School of Education is ranked in the world's top 20 most international universities, and actually we find that students from 2/3 of the world's countries study here. So we have a really diverse multicultural community, which we think is great and a great place to flourish and develop. So our MSc programme doesn't just draw from one discipline. We actually draw from a variety of different health sciences disciplines. And these include psychology, physiology, and epidemiology. So this gives you a very well-rounded knowledge and understanding from different perspectives of the global issues which are pertinent to physical activity for health. So this is a kind of summary or overview of the different courses that you'll be engaged with during your time here on the MSc Physical Activity for Health. So we essentially break the academic year into 3 what we call semesters. The first semester takes place from when you start and when you arrive in September through to December, when we have a break for the Christmas holidays here in the UK. And during this first semester, you engage in several what we call core courses. So these are courses which you have to take and really provide that kind of underlying knowledge which is required for your degree. So what we do is we start you off with a course called Physical Activity for Health. And this is actually a course that I lead as course organizer. And in this, we look at some of the physiological mechanisms through which physical activity and reducing sedentary behaviour act to reduce and treat various chronic disease conditions. We teach you about the fundamentals of physical activity, such as appropriate definitions and guidelines, and levels of prevalence. So how active are we across the globe, and what are some of the reasons which help us understand why some people and some countries are more active than others. We then have a course called Psychology of Physical Activity. And in this course, what we do is we critically examine the role of psychology in understanding physical activity behaviour, and in some instances, sedentary behaviour, or what we might know as sitting time. In this course, what we also do is we also focus on examining the psychological consequences of being active. So we focus very heavily on the relationship between physical activity and various aspects of mental health, such as good mental health, so health, quality of life and well-being, and also anxiety and depression as mental health disorders. And during these two courses, as I said, we also draw very heavily from epidemiology. So that's the scientific and systematic and really data-driven study of the distribution and determinants of health-related states in different populations. Then a final core course that you will have is called Understanding Research Concepts. And this is where we talk through some of the fundamental concepts which underpin scientific research. So this is an essential course for you in order to be able to critically evaluate the strength of the research that we discuss in all of our other courses. Then what you'll see is a course called Assessment of Physical Activity. And this actually starts in week 6 of semester 1 and runs in through the first 5 weeks of semester 2 from January onwards. And in this course, what we ask you to do is to engage with different measurement instruments to critically evaluate these in terms of how well they assess physical activity, sedentary behavior, key health aspects of fitness, and also body composition as well. So this is somewhat of a more practical based course where you get hands-on experience of actually measuring people's levels of physical activity and health. So all of our core courses are delivered in person. So what we do is we have some pre-class learning activities such as readings or tasks for you to complete in advance of the class. You might watch some pre-recorded lecture materials, and then in the class itself we try and have a very engaging and interactive workshop type session, which is reflective of the interaction engagement that we hope for at master's level. So it's certainly not just that you come in and sit and listen to us talking for 2 hours. Hopefully it's much more interesting and appealing and a better way of learning for you all. Then what we do is we move into semester 2. We ask you to complete the Assessment of Physical Activity course. And then we have 2 other core courses. The first is what we call Physical Activity Across the Lifespan. And this is where what we do is we look at specific populations across the lifespan, such as early years, children, adolescents, older adults. We also look at health inequalities as well, and look at the role of physical activity and sedentary behavior in determining health in these different specific populations. The final core course, which as I said, should have pointed out at the start, are these grey boxes here. This is called Research Process. Now, this is where we take you through the process and teach you about what's required to formulate an independent research project. And central to this process is the need for you to be able to identify clear and precise research questions, to formulate a scientifically rigorous study design, and to consider different approaches to collecting data and information. What we also do in this course is we help you develop an appreciation of the responsibilities associated with professional conduct in work of this nature in the field, and all the different academic conventions and recommendations that guide the presentation of scientific work. And this course is designed primarily to help prepare you for what is the dissertation course, which takes place in semester 3. Now you see that in semester 2 there is an orange box there called optional courses of 30 credits, and I'll come back to that in the next slide. But I'm just going to move on to the dissertation. As I said, this is the largest piece of work, sole piece of work undertaken in the Physical Activity for Health programme. So by itself it contributes 60 credits to the 180 credits of the MSc award, and on its own occupies around 4 months of study time of the year-long taught MSc if you're taking this full time. So the aim of the dissertation, as I said, is for you to design and conduct your own independent research project. You'll be under the supervision of one of our Physical Activity for Health Research Centre members of staff and researchers who have relative and appropriate experience to supervise you in whatever project you decide to do. And underlying this is we assess you on your ability to undertake a really substantial piece of academic research. Several of our students go on to have their research published in academic journals, and you can demonstrate very substantial autonomy, initiative, and decision making through the process. So I'll go on now to discuss what we call these optional courses, and these are 30 credits of taught courses. We will help guide you through your selection of these, but these are not core courses delivered by us. What these are courses that are available from across the university that you can select from your own choice, either from within our Institute for Sport, Physical Education and Health Sciences, or from within our Moray House School of Education, or from any other relevant programme across the university that you can identify a course from, such as psychology or public health. So you can basically choose the options that you want to based on your own individual requirements, and you can tailor your degree to focus on some aspect of academic study that is of most interest, whether that be teaching and learning, psychology, or public health, or rehabilitation medicine. Now, the timetabling of these optional courses vary, but again, this is something that you can choose the courses which best suit your working patterns. And what I provided on the slide there are just some examples of the optional courses which our students have taken in recent years. This includes a research-based attachment where you link with a professional or charity organisation to conduct a specific piece of research that they would like done. Some of our students choose to develop their methodological skills, perhaps in systematic reviewing or in qualitative research. And then there's a wide variety of different sports and public health related courses, such as social determinants of health and public policy, development and evaluating complex interventions, psychology of teaching and learning, and a wide variety of other courses that, as I said, one of our jobs as staff members is to help guide you through this process. So we'll provide you a list of all the available courses that you can choose from. We'll give you feedback from our previous students in terms of how they found their optional courses, and we'll sit down with you each on an individual one-to-one basis to discuss what it might be that you're looking for from your optional courses, and thus what might be suitable selections for you. So as I mentioned back in one of my first couple of slides, there's a growing workforce across the globe which is dedicated to improving levels of physical activity in the general public and enhancing health through physical activity. So an MSc in this area, particularly when it's delivered by members of our World Leading Research Centre and from here at the University of Edinburgh, really acts as a substantial career enabler for our graduates. And it really opens up a wide variety of graduate destinations, whether that be going directly into practice in terms of working with a hospital or a local authority or a government body, or it could be that you decide that you want to stay in research and you want to be working as a research assistant, or you might decide that the current study of master's level is not sufficient for you and you want to still either remain with us in Edinburgh or move on elsewhere to conduct a PhD study. Regardless of what it is that you want to go into or what your longer term career aspirations is, what we equip our graduates with is critical knowledge of the current research evidence which relates to the relationship between physical activity for health, determinants of physical activity, measurement, and considerations for specific and diverse populations and policy. So what you gain are specialist measurement and research skills to investigate issues in this field. You'll become critically aware of how research evidence can inform policy and practice. And specifically for our field, you'll be aware of how physical activity policies can impact globally. So wherever you come from in the world, you'll be able to take the knowledge that you come with from Scotland and from Edinburgh and apply that in your own context, in your own setting. So you'll grow and develop on our programme a wide range of skills relating to knowledge and understanding, research and inquiry, personal intellectual autonomy. You'll get the ability and skills to critique methods for assessing physical activity and health. And completion of our MSc degree allows you to continue on to advanced research and a possible academic career. We currently have a network of MSc Physical Activity Health graduates who have stayed in academia, and we're really proud of the success of our graduates in securing funded PhD positions. So I won't read these out for you, but this is just a few quotes from some of our previous students. So some of our students are from the UK, some of our students are international, and particularly from China, and several of our students have went on, as I said, to study PhDs. Victoria on the slide here is completing her PhD in the University of British Columbia in Canada. Zen Leo in the middle there is conducting his PhD currently at the University of Leuven in Belgium. And Naomi Burns, who was one of our first graduates back in 2016, is actually now a lecturer in her own right, as are several of our ex-graduates. So as I mentioned, that MSc graduate network is now extending over 25 members. There are current MSc and PhD students, lecturers, research fellows, research assistants, and even a sports medicine physician. And they're represented across more than 8 countries, holding expertise in different areas of physical activity, public health, mental health, and health inequalities. In terms of our entry requirements, what we require as a minimum is typically a 2-1 in a relevant discipline. Now, there are lots of different disciplines which are relevant to this degree: applied sports science, exercise science, anything from a kind of medical rehabilitation background, psychology, but we do also accept applicants from non-traditional backgrounds as well. There has to be obviously some relative and appropriate experience and justification for not having that undergraduate background, but we certainly do accept applicants onto the programme, as I said, from these non-traditional backgrounds. What we are hopeful for is some evidence of research methods experience, perhaps in taught courses around research methods and statistics perhaps, or it could be that you've already conducted your own independent research project as an undergraduate student. And any other experience that you have, such as teaching, coaching, applied physical activity or health promotion, will also be taken into account from your application. If there's anyone here today or listening into the recording that hasn't applied yet but is in the process of doing so, I really strongly encourage you to take your time and put in the effort for when writing your personal statement. So this is something that we do take very, very seriously. We need to make sure that what you're applying for in terms of what we cover on physical activity for health is actually the best program for you. So it's making sure that our aims and our content align with your longer term career ambitions. And if you can demonstrate that you understand what we're doing on this program, what we're trying to achieve, and how that matches, then that makes our job so much easier when it comes to reviewing your application. So I would just like to say thank you for your attention today. As I said, if you're here with us in this session, or whether you're listening later at another time. I said if you've not, as of yet, submitted your application, we still very much welcome applications and will do right up until the end of the summer. And if you have any questions at all about the application process, about what the programme entails and would like some more detail, please do contact me via email. I'm also very happy to arrange a short follow-up online discussion with you if you prefer to do that on an individual basis. So I can see there are 2 slides left, Aiko. I'm not quite sure what they are, maybe just a slide asking questions, but I'll just pause there and let people come in if they would.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Graham. Yes, I've just put a note in the chat to say if anyone has any questions, please type them into the chat and we'll respond to them. Let's see what those next 2 slides are. Oh, yes. So the first one is around asking questions. So just to remind you how to get to the text chat. And there's a lot of information here around using the hand raising function, but I don't think we'll need to do that. So please just feel free to type any questions you have in the chat, and we can respond to them as best we can. And while we wait for any questions to come in, I'll maybe pick up on a couple of bits and pieces that might be of interest. And let me find the link before I do that. So this program offers a couple of scholarship opportunities that applicants for this program may be eligible for. So I'm going to include the link to the fees and funding website here, and so please have a look at those. There's the Access Scholarship, which is for UK resident, and there is the Country Scholarship, Murray House Country Scholarship, which is for students from particular countries where we're looking for more representation within the school. So please have a look and see if you are from an eligible country, and you might please do apply. The applications are now open for those scholarships. So what you would do is apply for the MSc, and then once you have your kind of offer, even conditional offer, you can apply for the scholarship. And there's also a link on that page to the university's scholarship search tool. So there might be some other funding opportunities that are available to you, maybe based on where you're from or on some other kind of characteristic. So please just have a look and see if you might be eligible for any other country scholarships or things to do with like your ethnicity or your background that makes you especially eligible for a different type of scholarship. So I encourage you to have a look at those. Great. So yes, so we're open for questions now. So if anyone has anything they'd like to ask, I see a question just come in there now. It's asking how the PG certificate route of the course works, and does it involve attending university at set times? Graham, would you be okay to answer that?
Absolutely. Hi, Lorraine. Thank you for your question. So whether it's the PG Cert, the PG Dip, or the Masters, it does involve attending uni at set times. It's just how many times and how many courses you are engaging with. That's what differs essentially. And obviously with the Masters, full Masters, you have your independent research project over the summer to complete. But if you're interested in the PG Cert, and this is also applicable for the PG Dip, this would be some of our core courses, and we deliver these on a Monday and a Tuesday over the 2 semesters. So you'd be looking to attend during the kind of working hours between probably between 12 and 6 o'clock on a Monday and a Tuesday. Now that's not fully between those times, that's just when classes are scheduled for. So we typically have 1 or a maximum of 2 2-hour classes during a Monday afternoon and a Tuesday afternoon. And I've said then that's regardless of whether you're doing the PG Cert, PG Dip, or whether you're actually engaged in the full Masters. The top courses are all programmed and timetabled at the same time. The PG Cert obviously just has less of the courses, so you don't complete the optional courses, and you focus on the core courses that we offer in the program.
There's a question asking what would MSc students do to have a higher possibility of being a PhD during the program. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Savi. Thank you for your question. That's a really good question, and one that a lot of our students are asking us now. We definitely, I think, have a higher proportion of students who are wanting to go on to do a PhD program. And it's a very common question in terms of what additional can you do. I'll come back to the additional in a moment, but really I can honestly say that the primary thing that you should focus on when you're here doing your MSc is getting the best mark that you can in the MSc. So for example, when we review PhD applications, the first thing and the first essential criteria that we're looking for is an MSc distinction. So that is your overall MSc is awarded at 70% or above. Now this is by no means guaranteed for MSc students. We always have a range of students who pass the degree with merit, that's 60% and above, and then some, but I would say a smaller proportion, pass with MSc distinction. And it's really those students who we will have felt across the academic year will have shown the most sufficient academic progress, level of understanding and knowledge at this kind of high level of higher education, and will have also produced, guaranteed, because this is how we award our distinction courses, our distinction programs, a distinction in their dissertation, which is the independent research project. And that's the best sign that the student has the potential to go on to conduct PhD study. So there are some things that you can do, and I'll discuss those just now. But as I said, the primary thing that you should focus on is enjoying the MSc experience, and working really hard on those top courses first of all, and then your dissertation to hopefully obtain an MSc distinction. And as I said, that's the most important criteria that we look for. What is then really useful for some students is potentially to have some form of additional research experience. Now, we offer such experience on the master's programme, so quite often we are looking for MSc students to help us conduct a research project, either in a voluntary capacity or a short paid opportunity, and we make these available to our cohort. There are also other departments within our institute who do similar, and students quite often go and volunteer or take part in the research projects to kind of build up their research skills and their portfolio and their CV to enhance that most relevant. Some students go on with the aim of trying to have an academic publication at the end of their masters, turning their MSc dissertation into a paper that they submit. Now, obviously, given the time frame that we work on, this is never possible if students are wanting to go straight onto a PhD program. So quite often what we do is we encourage students to take a year between having their MSc and then conducting a PhD. That gives them a full year to hopefully engage in some part-time research assistant work, to have a publication. And also it does take some time to develop a really strong research proposal. So sometimes there are paid opportunities and paid scholarships for students just to apply for, but the real focus at the moment across the sector is that students or potential students are developing their own research proposals and then seeking funding for this. So this, again, by taking that year, that gives you some time to work with academics at the institute that you're interested in studying, to find out if they're willing to supervise you, and then to establish that sound research project and hopefully secure funding through the time. We also have a number of different kind of support services within the university. So we have an institute for academic development who help engage with your academic skills. We have career service. We have a cohort lead who again takes some responsibility in the program for developing your academic skills. And engagement in all of these types of services and training courses is something that we strongly encourage, again, to enhance your CV, to bring your skills up to speed, and hopefully to give you the strongest chance of working towards a PhD. So hopefully that answers your question. As I said, it is something that is quite common now, so it's something that we touch on in the programme throughout the academic year when you're here.
It's great to have a chance to hear from everybody. Please keep your questions coming and we'll do our best to respond to them. While we're waiting for any more questions to come in, I thought I might put some relevant contact details in the chat. I'm sure Graham would be happy to help with any questions that you guys might have and respond to any email. But if you had any questions about your application or sort of how to submit documents or like your references or whatever, you might want to get in touch with our PG admissions team. They're really friendly and I think very quick to respond, and they have a live chat. So I'm going to put that in the chat there, a live chat function. So if you had a quick question, you could just type it into their live chat and they'll be able to get an answer to you quite quickly. Otherwise, they'll email you to respond to your question if it's something that takes a little bit more time. But I think that's a really great resource to make use of if you have questions about like your entry requirements or whether your, I don't know, IELTS test scores are what we need or something like that. They'll be able to help you with those sort of questions. And then I'll add the future students' email address. And also I wanted to share some of these next links as well. Hold on one second. And the future students' email address is the same. It's a general inbox. So if you have any questions about your application, if you send it to that email address, they'll be able to point it in the right direction of the person who's best able to respond to you. So it's another useful one to have. Now, the two links that we've got here, so I don't know if where you guys are coming from, but if you're from not close to Edinburgh and you'd like to have a look around our campus, the virtual visits link there is a good way to be able to see what our campus looks like. There are some 360 tours, so not quite a video, but you can kind of look around in different directions at our beautiful classrooms and our beautiful quad, and see the Salisbury Crags right behind our building. And then there's also a link there to the student chat. So there are current students. I'm not sure if there's one from Physical Activity for Health, but there's definitely some from Moray House, our school, who would be just welcome, happy to chat with anyone and answer any questions about the student experience. So please do get in touch with them, and you can ask them about what it's really like. I know we're like staff, so we maybe don't give you the answers that you're looking for, but you can access current students there, and they'd be happy to chat with you. Oh, super. So it sounds like maybe all the questions have been answered, Graham. So I don't know if you want to just say farewell, and I'll hit the record.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, thanks everyone for coming, and those joining online, watching at a later time. Again, just please email me with any questions you do have. Thank you.